Welcome to the Undefined Leader, where we reimagine leadership, redefine work, and get curious. Derek, what are we curious about today?
Are curious because I think I started by being curious about something you said on an episode a while ago. And it was just kind of, I even forget like overall the topic that we were talking about, but it was like something that I said to you in there. And I'm paraphrasing, but your response was something like, it's not certainty that I need from leaders, it's clarity. And that's just kind of something that's like been in my mind a little bit there of what is clarity. And like, yeah, and I like agreed with you, but then I had to think about it more too of like, yeah, like no one can promise certainty. Like, oh, nor should we like expect really in reality certainty, but should we expect clarity? And what is it that clarity actually gives us? And I've done some leadership trainings recently where I've been in a group of leaders and I've talked about I'm starting to realize that the antidote to chaos is clarity. It's not necessarily order, it's clarity. And so clarity has been like on my mind a little bit, and I've been infusing it into my leadership. So I think it started with I'm curious, but Alex, what are you curious about?
I'm now curious of the definition of clarity. I have like these definitions in my mind and what it means to me. Yeah, are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Like quick little
So
Google.
yeah, with the quick like dictionary, it's the quality of being coherent and intelligible, the quality of transparency. That's essentially like the dictionary definition. But you're the one that said it. That you're the one that said, I don't need certainty, but what you need or what you want is clarity. So I think regardless of like the dictionary definition, in your mind, if a leader is giving you clarity, or if you're leading with clarity, what are you giving, do you think?
I think it's giving a roadmap a little bit of the destination. Like no one wants to start a hike without knowing how long the hike is. Do I have enough food? Do I have enough water with me? Is it going to be really uphill and steep the entire time? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be shady? Like, no one just wakes up and just starts going on a hike. I mean, maybe some people do without having this information, being prepared for it. And that to me is clarity of I have some kind of roadmap and I know what direction I'm going and I'm not just dropped off in the woods and say, see you later. And I don't even know where I'm going.
I think people do wake up and say I'm going to go for a hike, and those are the ones that need like the helicopter to come and to come and grab them and evacuate them out of there when people do that. Yeah, because they get into things they weren't prepared for or planned for. But that's not certainty though, right? Like, is it certainty of Alex? It's going to be a 4 hour hike. It's going to be this elevation. It's going to be this temperature. It's not necessarily certainty, right? I guess that's kind of like what's the difference between certainty and clarity.
I think certainty is control. Like you want to feel like you're in control, but nothing in life is certain. I mean, a lot of us want to know answers and we're as humans, we're just curious and we a lot of the times need an answer to feel at ease and need to know like the diagnostic of why I'm feeling this way or what's happening. And that gives us control or a sense of control. But nothing in life is certain. So asking for certainty and thriving for certainty is never going to get you to that, to achieve that. But clarity, the difference of clarity is feeling like when I said I want clarity from like my leader. Is my leader competent? Do they know where they're going? And do I want to be a part of that journey? That to me is like that to me is what clarity is. Because then I have a little control of am I willing to do all this hard work? And it might be yes. Is the mission important? Because I'm a very mission driven person as well. And so, what is like, where are we going? What is the mission? What is the purpose of what we're trying to do? And then I'm able to justify and make sense of like the work that has to get done there too. But to me, like when there isn't clarity, there's chaos and it's very hard to win in middle of chaos at all times when you don't like start with the answer when you don't know where you're going.
I'm on the same page with you. Even, I mentioned I've been doing some leadership trainings. I was in a 6, 7 weeks ago. I was in a group full of leaders, and this was what we are talking about, right? And that's kind of like what I said. I asked the group, "What is the antidote to chaos?" And even just like, how many experience chaos in your business and in your teams, and like everybody put their hand up. I'm like, okay, so what is the antidote to chaos? And a few people are like, order. And I was like, is it though? Right? Because you can have like everything in order and still have chaos. And you can have, some different processes and some different things and checklists and tasks and yet still have chaos. So I kind of pushed back. I was like, I don't think order solves the chaos problem. Like, and then that's kind of like where I sort of went to. I was like, I'm thinking it's clarity that brings order to things, or helps like restore some order or do some things. Like, order is not a foreign component to all of this, but yeah, I think it's hard to be chaotic in the presence of a lot of clarity, of clear words, clear definitions, clear expectations, clear goals, clear boundaries, clear responsibilities, clear accountability. It's going to be really hard to be chaotic.
Yeah, I actually have an example of that. I'm coaching this business and they keep coming to the coaching session saying, we need SOPs, standard operating procedures. We need, like, our business is super chaotic and I'm tired of answering these questions. And the answer is we need SOPs. And so that's sure, yes, maybe you do need SOPs. Maybe you need some processes in place. But anytime they actually put a process in place, chaos still happened.
Yeah.
And it's because when we like took a step back to look at why is the chaos actually happening, it was because the people that are following the process don't have clarity on their role, their responsibilities, and what winning looks like in their role. So you can say, Derek, this is your task and this is exactly how you do it. Step by step, click on this, go to this, say this. But if you don't have full clarity of what is the result that we're looking for, what is the purpose of this process, what is the ultimate result that we're trying to get from this, you could be following that process to a T and not getting the results you need. And now the leader feels like they need to jump in again and put more order in place. But the reality is, you just never had clarity of what winning looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like that's a perfect example where they're trying to solve it with organization or with order, right? An SOP is right, putting things in the right order. Like, here's the order of how to do something. So it's like a literal perfect example for what I was talking about, right? And you just know, like, hey, it's not a bad thing to have those, but you're just being chaotic. So having these things, you're just going to be chaotic with a checklist. You can still be chaotic in there. And no, I like that. And I always appreciate when people start with like, let's first agree on how we're going to communicate. And when we say this, let's agree on what we mean when we say this. And let's agree what we're going to call this. So I think like language is maybe an overlooked thing when we all speak the same language, right? Like if we're all speaking like English, I think sometimes though, like Alex, your version of it might be different than my version of it. And if we're both speaking with different definitions, you're calling it this, I'm calling it this. The team that's chaos. And so this back in college, I did like a semester of debate. And so like you learn how to like debate, and there's like debate competitions. And like if you want to be really good at debating, they're basically like whoever can define the terms wins the debate. So whoever gets to define like this is what this means has
Mm.
the upper hand in winning the debate. I don't think leading is like debating, but that concept has always struck to me of the importance of defining what things mean, because that changes all the communication. After that, Alex, you run into that where like everyone's speaking a different language.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're just using these exact same words that we're saying, like if I went to my leader and said, Derek, I really am struggling because I need some clarity. I need some clarity on the direction that we're going. If we don't agree on what clarity actually means, you might think, oh, okay, Alex needs goals and Alex needs SOPs to get her to those goals. And so you might be thinking, like, I need to over explain her role and responsibilities versus that is not what I'm saying at all. So I definitely agree. Do you have some examples of? some words where you might be in a meeting and we're just not speaking the same language?
I see a common one that happens where there's goals, to use your word, there's KPIs, there's data, and like these words are being used interchangeably. And in my mind, those are three different things, but those are in my mind, right? And maybe for somebody else in their mind, it's different on that. And so I think like if employees are kind of constantly asking like, hey, could you clarify? Hey, I know, hey, you're asking me for this. Could you clarify? Right. Again, that's like, could you clarify as asking for clarity
Clarity.
and
Yeah.
and and clarification on this? I was like, hey, and all that. That's just one example that pops me in my mind because those are similar in nature, but they have different things, right? A KPI is different from a goal. Someone's goal could be above a KPI. Someone's goal could be below a KPI.
Hmm.
And then there's just data, and data just is the
Is
numbers.
what it is. Yeah.
That's the one that I hear it frequently kind of used interchangeably or not carefully on
That's a
things.
good one. That's a good one. When you're reading the definition, it said transparency.
Mhm.
What do you think transparency plays a role in clarity?
Well, some of it is just kind of being like the resident language nerd here, right? If you think about clarity, right, it's clear. And if something is clear, it's transparent.
Transparent.
You can see through it, right? So like that's where my mind goes through there. And so I think like, the nature of being able to see through something, you can see what's happening on the other side and all that. Like it's giving you like this sense of clarity that I think maybe cuts through like the intention and things behind it and ultimately cutting through to get to the context of something of it's not just like the words and it's not just like the actions, but also there's when I'm being, I think, at my most clear or bringing my most clarity, someone can also see my intent and the context that I'm operating in because I am trying to be clear, right? Like a window that somebody can see through.
So I think there's a little bit of a trust factor in here too. Um, because like think of, I really like the analogy you just gave of like seeing through and like the actual word of transparent. Think of like, have you ever been swimming somewhere where you could just see through the water and you know exactly what's under you versus have you went swimming somewhere where it's like so dark and you have no idea what's under your foot? What's the feeling you get between those two?
When you can't see, it's scary, right? You don't know
Yeah.
what's down there, what you're going to step on, what might hurt you, or different things like that. So you definitely approach it a lot more carefully, right? Than versus like if you can see it, maybe you just full on like, hey, I can run out there and not worry about it.
Yeah, you don't feel safe. It's scary. You don't feel safe. You don't know what to expect. You can't prep yourself for it. So, do you think when we say, and I said, obviously, I need clarity from my leader, where do you think that's coming from? Why do employees actually want and need clarity from leaders? Is it because we're fearful of what might come? We can't see under our feet. We feel unsafe, and we think it's our leaders' responsibility to unmuddy the waters and show us what's under us and make us feel safe in being in the water.
I definitely think there's a component of that of I need to figure out if I want to step out there, a little bit. I for sure. And then I think maybe combined with that too of it's similar, but it's a little different of I don't want to waste my time. Like I don't want to do some work and create something that wasn't actually maybe what you were wanting or what we need or that's going to be helpful. So it's like, can I get a little more clarity, a little more info just so I can do my job. Like so I don't waste anyone's time, waste resources, all of that of what is it exactly? Because I don't want to have to go back and start over or do the wrong thing too. So there's some like safety there as well, but then there's also just like a practicality. Maybe it has nothing to do with necessarily the transactional nature of it. It's just like I desire to do it right, and in order to do it right, I need something more from you.
I think I'm having a little bit of an aha moment of why I said that sentence because I feel very strongly, and it's a passion of mine, and that's why we're doing this as well, of like trying to make the workplace a better place for everyone. I feel very passionately about how we spend majority of our life at work. So like let's make it worth something. Like let's let's find some kind of joy and fulfillment and make it worth something. And so maybe when I'm asking for that clarity, it comes from like, are we doing this for the right reasons? And is it something that I could be proud of? Is it something that I want to keep putting more energy and time into? And so I'm almost like protecting my like time and energy. At the same time, I'm very driven. So it's like, tell me what winning looks like so I can go and win. And if you're not telling me what winning looks like, like, would anyone watch a basketball game if you didn't know how to score and like how a team could win? Like it would be so boring to watch a basketball game of people just running around and there's no end to it, right? So maybe that might be one of the desires of why employees ask for clarity.
Yeah, as you were saying that too, there's the concept, right, of when you don't have authority, and so you're in more of like a followership role, so you don't necessarily have that authority to be like, yeah, I think this is a bad idea, or necessarily like the empowerment. Like I think good leaders like empower people without authority to be able to say that, to where it's maybe like a request for clarity is almost like a, are you sure
Yeah.
that's what right, or where it's a little bit like can you, so can you use that word in a sentence in order to make sure that I'm hearing the same thing? Do you think like maybe there's a component of that, Alex, where like somebody who maybe like, I don't know about this, but they're not necessarily in a position because again they lack authority, or they lack empowerment or autonomy to do that, or it's like maybe if I make them
Question.
think this through a little bit differently, they'll arrive at a different conclusion.
Maybe. I mean, we did just say that trust is a component of it. And so if you don't trust that your leader is thinking through and being strategic and knowing what direction they're going, like, what if the leader said, okay, jump off the boat and swim in this? And you're like, are there sharks in here? Oh, you're like, but no, 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 no. Are there sharks in here? Like, like you want them to think through and you don't trust that that person already thought it through and putting you through something that they just didn't think through. And so you don't trust them. And so you're questioning it. That for sure could be it.
Just made me think of the previous episode we did where we were like doing like our game show, right? Which leadership style is it? Like things leaders say and then picking it. And so when you said, are there sharks in here? Like I just heard a voice being like, Alex, there's only one way to find out.
Well, which leadership style would that be?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit of, depends on if they're getting in too. Like that really does depend on if we're all getting in it together to find out, or if you get to go.
You test it out and then I'll jump in depending on
That changes the
what
leader.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Now this, so Alex, you and I both took, this was a bit ago, right? But we both took the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment, which I know I've referenced this on this podcast before. I really like it. It's actually something that I want to learn more about. And there's potentially even like a conference that I want to go to this summer, specifically all about this, because I just think it was really cool. And then we kind of looked at both of our styles. And so your number one strength, Alex, in the Clifton was communication. So I wonder if there's a little bit, because obviously this is like passionate subject for both of us, because we choose, this is our podcast, so we get to talk about the things that we're interested in. But do you, how does this subject just relate into like your number one strength is communication? You're very good at it. I've seen you. I mean, I know that your ability to like, create the story and all those things. So how does clarity fit into that for you, Alex, with communication being such a strength for you?
A good question. I think when I think of why communication might be so important to me and why it became a strength too, is maybe it's because I wanted like clarity. Like just coming back to this, where if I am speaking to someone, I am being very, very um precise and making sure that they don't walk away questioning my intentions or why I might have said that or where they are in the team or whatever. Like, in my opinion, after a conversation, especially if it's a difficult conversation, you should walk away knowing exactly where your place is, how like safe you are or not safe you are or whatever. And so that is clarity. Like I try to I'm very transparent, and I don't necessarily use like sarcasm or any other kind of style that makes you question more. It's you will always know how I feel. If my mouth doesn't say it, my face will say it. But yeah, and so I expect that from everyone else.
So that leads me then to a follow up question. So is clarity a skill?
Yes, absolutely. I've seen so many people that no matter how hard you try, um, they just can't get there. They just can't get clarity. They can't communicate clarity or even think through strategically. Like, I think clarity is maybe like a bigger skill, and then there's multiple smaller skills that go into clarity, which would be communication, strategic thinking. What else would it be under it? Communication, strategic thinking, authenticity, and transparency, like the skill of being able to build trust with people. I think that all kind of goes into clarity. I don't think you're like born with it and or you don't. Like it is a skill that you have to develop over time. What do you think?
Yeah. And then I think there's a component there, if I'm listening to everything you're saying, and you've been very clear, thank you, is you have to value it. Right, like if you're gonna make it a skill implies that it can be learned and it can be improved, right? That's what a skill sort of means, implies, but you kind of have to value it in order to put the effort in to be more clear, right? Or to bring clarity. So if someone doesn't value clarity, then they're not going to work on being more clear as
Yeah,
a leader. It's like they just,
absolutely. Just like everything else. I mean, we're just talking about running. If you don't value running and you don't care about it and you don't enjoy it, well, you're probably not going to put the time and effort into actually being a good runner. Versus if you enjoy it, you value it, and you want to be a better runner, you're going to put the time and the training into it at the same time. So I do think it is a skill for that reason.
yeah, and maybe someone doesn't value it because they've just never really experienced it, because it
Hmm.
does seem like it's not a super common skill. Here it's like there's so much to go back to, kind of like the original point. Chaos is more of the normal issue. Again, when I'm in a room full of leaders who hears battling chaos, every hand goes up, right? So chaos is a little bit more of the norm. Clarity is a little bit more of the exception on things. So maybe for a lot of people, they've never seen clarity, they've never experienced it, so they've never learned to value it or appreciate it. And so if we kind of talk about like breaking cycles a little bit of leadership here, of appreciating it, valuing it, working on it as a skill, so that in this leader created this leader created this leader, someone broke the cycle of, hey, you know what, it sucks when there's not clarity. I
Hmm.
realize that that's why all the chaos has been here. I now appreciate what clarity does, so I'm going to work on my clarity as a leader, be more careful how I speak, more clear with how I speak, more careful to make sure my words align with my actions and my context, and invite. I think a piece of this too, Alex, I'm curious your thoughts of, I think maybe this is to also invite clarity back with, with questions like, is this making sense, does this, right? So you invite feedback on how clear you're being, also, versus just assuming, hey, I said it the first time, like what did you not hear?
Yeah, my favorite question to ask to invite clarity is, so Derek, let's say we just had like a full-on conversation. Derek, what's your takeaway from this conversation? And then so that way I'm not assuming that we're on the same page. You're able to repeat back to me what you took away. And then that gives me a chance to actually be more clear of saying, well, I can see how you got that way, but here's what I actually tried to say. And then so you just keep doing that until you're on the same page and you both are speaking the same language. So I have a question for you
Yeah.
before we wrap it up. Let's pretend there are two leaders and one is speaking in a way that lacks clarity. And one person you sit in front of and they say something and they're speaking in a certain way, and you're like, that person has clarity. What's the difference? What would that person that has clarity, what would they sound like?
Yeah. So, you mentioned your hiking analogy. right? So I think with clarity, there's like more specific details versus vague. To me, someone being unclear is speaking in like cliches, and speaking in like idioms and speaking in allegory, like speaking around the topic or just kind of repeating mantras and things like that, of just kind of like tired sayings that we use when we're not exactly sure what to say. Like that's like the value of like, Alex, what is what it is, like that's just falling back into vague things that we kind of all be like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, how can I argue with that? It really is what it is, versus. So that's kind of what I associate with that leader, right? Just generalities combined with like a lot of cliches and mantras and things like that. Versus, I think the leader that's speaking with clarity is more like, Alex, this is what I see. I see, I see this. I see this, and again, we started this without the certainty. Like I can't promise that, or I can't necessarily predict that, but this is what I see, and this is how I see your role fitting into that, and this is how I see this person's role supporting you in that, and then inviting clarity back. And Alex, can you see that also?
Hmm.
Right. So that to me is like maybe the differences there.
Amazing. I completely agree. Derek, did we itch your curiosity a little bit?
Were we clear, Alex? Were
Were
we?
we clear? I don't know. We'll have to go back and rewatch this and see if we're clear and we're like, what in the world are we talking about? Do we itch your curiosity a little bit?
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for having that conversation with me.
Absolutely. It was fun. Thanks for listening, everyone.